Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Human in Me. You are here with your boy Mpomiswashe, and I am with Ndamulelo once again.
What's up?
So today we're doing the 14th episode, right?
Yeah, episode 14.
So today we're doing episode number 14. So we just thought we should touch on something a little bit different and a little bit deep. So
Deep.
Yeah, it's deep, bruh. You know, like, and the thing is that there's no one way to explain this whole thing. You know, that's why I'm saying that. And obviously, it's different from one person to the next. Yeah. So today, I wanted us to touch on the topic of love, right? So my friend here is going to give you the definition that he has of what is love, because you just want to make sure that after this, as we move forward, we'll be functioning from the same definition. I'm also gonna give mine, but yeah.
Before I give the definition, I want to give a quote from the movie The Matrix, right? And I think the quote is fundamental to basically everything we're going to talk about today. And I remember this time Neo, right, the main character, went to the Oracle, and the Oracle told her that told him that being the one is like being in love, right? No one can tell you you're in love, but you just know it, right? And basically what I want to point out by that is the fact that for everybody in the world, hopefully, that being in love is a state which you're in, right? But there's no defining indicator instrument that tells you this is being in love. You have to feel this and this and this, right? Every person kind of knows it, right? And that's kind of where the different perspectives are going to come out of, because basically love is going to be individualized, right? Yeah. And
see what I meant when I said this is going to be deep.
Yeah. And which is also the reason why I have a couple of definitions, right? I'm only going to choose two, but basically I'm going to read out two, right? And the first one is from the freedictionary.com site, right? And it's basically love in relationships, right? Not just love as a word, but love in relationships, right?
Sure.
And this is how they define it: a strong feeling of affection and concern towards another person, as that arising from kinship or close friendship, right? I guess it has to do with the different kinds of love. Like they say, like most people say, there are different kinds of love. There's the love for the parents to the children, the romantic love of adults, right? I think that's more of what we're focusing on today.
Yeah, like we are focusing on love in the context of a relationship.
Okay.
Because the moment you start mentioning siblings and parents, it's just gonna
I guess this is the only definition we need, right? And so the second definition is in the same line, right? Because there's like definition 1 and 2 in the dictionary, right? It goes a strong feeling of affection and concern for another person, accompanied by sexual attraction.
Okay.
Right?
So that's in the context of a relationship.
Yep, most definitely.
Okay.
So yeah, that's I think that's the raw definition of love. Kind of like our standard or our reference point, right?
Can I jump in now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just gonna give, it's not necessarily a definition, but I'm just gonna give you what I think constitutes love.
Your perspective on it.
My perspective on it. Thank you very much.
Your standpoint on it.
So this is the thing now. The majority of time when people think about love, they think about the feeling. All right. But there's a problem with looking at it in such a manner, and I'll get to that one. So the thing that I wanted to touch on before we go anywhere is that the way I view love, right? So I view love as an umbrella term for for things like respect, honesty, care, trust, and all those, all those
strong feelings, basically.
Other strong feelings, right? It's an umbrella term. And some people do tell you that love is a doing word, right? So for you to express your love, you have to do those things: respect, trust that person, be honest with them, and all those things, right? If you can do those things, I'm not saying that if you do those things, your relationship is gonna work, but that's like, that's basically that's more like a template as to how to approach love, right? And another thing is that, like you said maybe before, that love is more individualized. So even though you have the template, that doesn't necessarily guarantee the success of that, because everything that you do you need to cater it. You need to cater it to this particular person in a specific way.
Yeah, that also accounts for the differences.
Exactly, that accounts for the differences. So going back to the feeling part, right? This is the thing, and this is one thing that I feel like people fuck up when it comes to, right? So we know the feeling part of things, right? So this is the thing. One thing that you have to realize is that when it comes to feelings, like is it feelings and emotions? When it comes to emotions themselves,
I think it's feelings we're talking about. Emotions are anger, short-term. Love is like,
isn't love an emotion,
Yeah, but it's like an emotional state.
Okay, let's talk about the emotional state again, because that's basically what people usually feel when they talk about love. Like they talk about the state of young talk. So this is the thing, right? When it comes to the whole thing of emotions, right?
Okay.
You're like when you before you feel something, right? Obviously, let me take this thing in the perspective of sadness, of fear. Let's take it in the perspective of fear, right? So fear in itself is not okay. So what? Okay, what am I doing now?
No, you're trying to explain it. I mean, you've done it so many times. Now you
just okay. So this is the thing with fear, right? So fear is context dependent. It depends on where it occurs, right?
Okay.
So there's no Fear is just a term that you attach to how your body feels at that time, right? So if you were to almost get hit by a car or a bicycle that's been driven by someone that you admire, or your crush or whatever, you wouldn't view that as fear. You would view that as, let's take a bicycle, because a car is a little bit extreme.
Yeah, so on a side note, men don't have crushes, so so I don't want to hear any human in me viewer saying I have a crush, because that's unmanly.
Let me make this thing simple, because I'm complicating it. So this is the thing. So sometime back they did a research, right? Those bridges that are made up of ropes and all that stuff, right? So they made a research, and then what they did is that they took an attractive woman, obviously, and then they waited for people to pass, especially men, right?
Okay.
So with every man who passed that bridge, right,
crossed it,
the woman would approach the guy and then talk to them and just have a normal conversation, right? So after that, what would happen is that the woman would end up giving the guy her number.
Okay.
So that the guy can call later on, right?
Okay.
So because this bridge is doing this thing, your brain can detect if I fall, I might die, right? So as he's doing this thing, internally, your body is aroused, right? But because you're experiencing that arousal in the presence of this person, right? The arousal gets misinterpreted. Exactly. It gets associated with that person, and then it gets interpreted as attraction.
Exactly.
We're told. So they did that, and then they took their sample, and then they left. They did the very same study on a concrete bridge. On a concrete bridge, right? But the difference is that when they did the same thing on a concrete bridge, they didn't get the same results they got from the first study, right? So that's when there are even theories when it comes to this whole thing of emotions, right? So the thing that happens is that in the body you experience arousal, but the meaning that you attach to that arousal will determine what happens afterwards. So if you feel that kind of arousal in the presence of someone that you are, in the presence of your date, right, you are more likely to interpret that as attraction. But if you experience the same arousal in the presence of a snake, you are gonna, interpret that as Wang Tol. So that applies to every single emotion. So the emotions themselves don't go like in them, like all by themselves. What usually happens is that your body experiences a certain level of arousal, and your attachment into that. Right. Okay. So now we are moving to the whole business about love, right? The meat of the so the majority of time when people talk about love, they talk about that arousal, that there's association between whatever you're experiencing inside and being in the presence of this particular person. If you want to look into this thing a little bit deeper, you can just Google misattribution of arousal.
Okay.
Yeah, basically that's you attaching let me stop explaining. So that's the thing. That's the thing. Like that's the thing that usually happens with you experiencing arousal and you attaching meaning to it
with something.
Exactly.
That's not.
So now this is the thing. If you get into a relationship because of that, because you feel like that at the time, you do know obviously that with a relationship it gets to a point where the relationship hits a plateau and you don't feel the way you used to feel, right? So when it gets to that, a lot of people start, questioning the whole thing with what happened to what we used to feel, right? And they think when it gets to that, the love is no longer there. People who've been in long-term relationships know what I'm talking about. It gets to that point, and then you hit a plateau, and then you don't, because you've gotten so used to each other that that excitement that you used to feel in the beginning of a relationship is no longer there. And then people start questioning. Some people end up leaving, but the strong ones remain and try to make things work.
Drop phrases like, I love him, but I'm not in love with him.
Exactly. You see those things. So that's basically, an example of someone who's basically addicted to that. And, if they get to a relationship and they don't feel that anymore, they start thinking, this is not love. I'm not in love anymore. I'm not in love anymore. That's why I mentioned this whole thing, Yoguti. Love is just an umbrella term for trust, all those things. Because if you look at it in such a manner, right, you will discard the whole thing of wanting to feel. I mean, like, feeling obviously is important because it motivates you. I mean, like, you wouldn't do stuff with someone you don't feel anything towards.
That's true.
And, so that's basically the number one problem that I personally have with the way that the majority of people view the topic of love, because they only focus on the feeling part of things, but the feeling part of things obviously changes as time goes by. So when you get to a point where you don't feel anything anymore, then that becomes a problem. We are told.
Right. Now I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the meat of the subject. And drop major judgments and perspectives. You ready for it?
Yeah, you can go with.
Okay, so basically, I remember telling you earlier before we started that I'm gonna sound cynical, and this is the part, right? So basically, like you said, right? I like how you broke it down. Made sure the viewers were with us. Carried them with us.
Sure.
But basically, here's my standpoint on what I think love is, right? I think love is an emotional state of high arousal,
So you still, okay.
Yeah, it is what it is, right? This is how I think it is.
Okay.
An emotional state of high arousal, right? With strong emotions, right? And I think its purpose is to bond.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically, it's tied to survival.
Yeah.
To bond with other people. Have good relationships with them. Because if you do that, then your chances of high survival are, almost guaranteed. But basically, the problem I have with love as the state of high arousal is just like any emotion that is above your normal range.
Yeah, it fades
and
away.
Since it's a feeling, it runs a course that is longer, which is why Robert Greene criticizes human beings. Not criticized, but, points the fault in human beings that which is what gives rise to fear and anxiety, right? That emotions were there, so human beings as animals can react back in caveman days, react to the threat immediately, right? But then as society got safer, the emotions lost it, right?
And
that's what makes people what you call them, unstable, right?
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
that's where the problems arises, when the fear is still there but the threat is no longer there, right? So basically that's the effect love has, right? It's like, it's not just an emotion, right? It's like a feeling that, as long as the person is there and the factors are there, right, it keeps on going, right?
Yeah.
And just like with every strong emotion, right, it affects the mind in ways that make you more irrational, right? And that's my biggest problem with being in love, as they say.
Yeah.
Because you like that thrill, you like what you do and how you look at it and you go, what the hell? I was in love. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
That's crazy. You
Yeah.
know? And that's my problem, Shuts off the frontal cortex, right? Rationality goes out the door.
Yeah.
And there it is. There's my biggest problem with love, It shuts your head off and you're not thinking. Now you're just reacting to situations.
Yeah, that's true, bro.
And that's literally like a recipe to fuck your whole life up,
And like, you still remember the time when we did when we were still discussing the book, right? There's a part that we touched on when we said that people experience love in different ways, right? And the ways in which they experience love will depend on where they come from. We are taught. So some people obviously, feel more loved when there's a sense of closeness, and then some people feel love when there's chaos.
Exactly.
So it obviously in those two states, people still feel something, but the feeling is different, because for one, it comes in the state of chaos, like this, and then another one is like, okay, closeness,
intimacy.
Exactly. Some people, experience love in the form of intimacy. Some people experience it in terms of chaos, right? And this is the reason why we mentioned the what do you call it? When we said that the individualization of things, this is where the whole thing about love differs. That's why I said that, the thing that I was saying, okay, the umbrella term and what goes under the term, right, might be a template, but it's not gonna be enough to make the whole thing last. You have to cater the way you give that, a particular person love to them specifically. You don't just take one template and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna apply it to everything, because it's not gonna work, right? So the reason why we mentioned that the first part of giving our definitions, saying our problems with the way that we view love, is because we realize that there are a lot of problems that come with that. There are a lot of problems that come with it, and they don't even have to be there.
That's true. Most definitely.
They don't even have to be there, because sometimes you find that some people just create chaos in the relationship, all in the name of, I want to feel that thing again. And then if you come across someone who's not used to chaos, then that presents a problem, because for you to function, you need the chaos, and that person doesn't need the chaos. So sometimes we do mess up the good relationships that we have with people, just because we want that thing, that specific thing for us, but we don't realize that for that person it's not the same thing. We are taught. So those are basically the problems that
Okay, now I'm gonna add in a bit of my 2 cents in there. This is basically, I think this is the most common reason why people fall in love, right? I think.
Yeah, the thing is, okay, let me add this thing before we go anywhere.
All right.
People, I've heard people saying that you have to grow and be your own person, but when you look at it, like when you look at this whole thing, people fall in love out of need, bruh.
Need?
Yeah.
Need of what?
The people fall in love in like, okay, let me give you an example, right? The majority of times when people get into a relationship is because they need someone.
Okay.
Right? So that whole thing comes from a point of need. The reason why not the reason, but part of the reason why some people, get married comes as a result of there's a need that needs to be filled. We are taught. So every single thing that's true. The majority of things that concern love come from a point of need. Right? Okay. This is what I wanted to add because you are about to
exactly
touch on that.
Yeah.
But continue.
All right. And before I go into this definition
of,
I'm going to define projection, right? In terms of psychology.
Why?
Because it's one of the reasons why. One of the reasons I believe is the most common reason people fall in love, right?
Okay, we are on the same path, but continue.
If they can understand this, then they can be more conscious that they're loving, and at least disillusion themselves a little bit when the arousal state shuts off. The frontal cortex. They can add a bit of realism and realize what's really going on. Because sometimes you might be unconsciously using people when you don't know it, right? But basically, here's my assumption, right? I think people.
I would suggest that you hold your phone in your hand because you're speaking away from the microphone.
Okay. I assume that people, right? The reason people fall in love, right, is because I know unconsciously they're trying to love themselves, right? It's the whole thing that goes back to basically you're trying to create the outside world, because the outside world mirrors the inside world, right?
Exactly.
So you're trying to correct the inside world by making it happen in the outside world, right? So basically my view is that what you need to do is love yourself first, right? But then you project the feelings onto another person, right?
That's true.
And basically you love the person in a way that you want love to be like, the ideal version of love, right? That's what you project onto the other person.
You love someone in terms
how you want to be loved inside, right? But basically it's like
that's basically what happens most of the time.
You're trying to manifest your version of love by projecting it onto some other person, and then convincing yourself that it's real because you're doing it, right?
Exactly. So if they don't understand it, then
and hopefully they can reciprocate,
Yeah.
If they don't, then you don't feel love.
You still remember we talked about this thing some time back when we said that you have to love people in the way that they understand. You have to give people love in the way that they understand, not the way that you want to give it to them. Because you might realize that the way that you are giving it to them is not the way that they're used to it.
That's basically why I'm trying to point out the awareness of the projection, so that you can realize that the other person may also be projecting,
Exactly.
So, you need to
be
work
aware
on it as adults. And not unconsciously, right? But basically, I'm going to define projection psychologically, right?
Sure.
And this definition accounts for a lot of things that happen in the world, but let's just stick to the love dynamic, right? So basically, psychological projection is a defense mechanism. This is from Wikipedia, right? Is a defense mechanism
speaking to the
in which the human ego, right, defends itself against unconscious impulses or qualities, both positive and negative, right? That's important. Positive and negative, right?
What happens?
The basically the ego defends itself unconsciously, right? The ego.
Okay, I want you to explain that. Continue.
The ego defends itself unconsciously against unconscious impulses or qualities, both positively and negatively, by denying their existence in themselves while attributing them to others, right? For example, a person who is habitually rude may constantly accuse other people of being rude, right? Kind of like when you have a long distance relationship with your girl, maybe she's American or something, and then she goes, "Oh shoot, are you cheating? Are you cheating on me?" And that's how you know. Yeah, that's how you know, like, red flags. She might have cheated on you.
Yeah.
Because literally she's...
Oh.
Exactly.
Now I get it.
Yeah, it's this is... I was hoping for a better definition because I got a better definition.
Does this thing stem out of insecurity?
Come again?
Does it stem out of insecurity?
No, insecurity is basically the result of insecurity. Insecurity results from an insecure ego, right?
Okay.
If the ego is insecure, then insecurities are... Basically, ego is the root of every insecurity, right?
Okay.
If your ego is secure, then you won't... Well, your insecurities will be, a lot less, right? So it's all about getting your ego together,
Sure.
So basically, like I mentioned, right? Like the definition says, right? Basically the unconscious impulses that the ego is trying to push away from itself, right? May be positive or negative, right? Now, in the case that they are positive projections, this is when you fall in love, right? Because falling in love is basically you wanting to see yourself as being loved, right?
Okay.
But then sometimes they can be negative in terms of you not wanting to accept that we're all human beings and we can do the most vile of things, right? And then you might go on a social justice warrior streak and, point at other people and how evil they are, or a more racist streak, the case of the political, black movements pointing out at white people and not calling them human. No, I would never do that. Black people have never done that in history, right? But we're all human,
Yeah.
So that's like,
so
basically
that's part of projection, right?
Yeah, it's like,
okay.
It's basically, you use it to push away and to pull close,
Sure.
but it's all unconscious, right? Which is why we're all about consciousness.
Yeah,
as the
I was
Human
about to say
podcast,
that.
That's what we're trying to do, get you conscious.
Bring things to your consciousness so that you can deal with them like an adult.
But basically, if you realize that, you might be projecting onto, because the problem with projection is, like, it makes the other person realize, or it makes them feel that, you don't care about them. All you want to do is use them to create a feeling within yourself, right? Because that's what you're doing.
Did they even realize that?
No, but they don't realize that.
That's why I'm
as
asking.
I put it like that, but basically they realize there's a lack of intimacy in terms of, they only exist as the version you want them to be in your head, right? And
that's
like you said.
Obana, thank you for mentioning that they exist in a version that you want them to exist in. I've realized that the majority of time we people get into relationships with people, but they seem to have an ideal version of how you are supposed to be or how you are, and then that builds this bridge between the real you and the you that they envision. Exactly. And then when you act in ways that show the real you, then there's a conflict between the real you and what they have envisioned, and then problems begin to start in the relationship.
That's true. Then they panic.
Exactly.
If you're gonna have an ideal, right? At least spend time to know your projection, right? Or at least know what you want, right? That's what they call it. Know what you want in a relationship, right? Know what you want, and basically talk about it, right? So the expectations can be clear from the start. I mean, they can only
but you shouldn't expect too much. You'll be disappointed.
No, but at
and
least,
that's obviously being disappointed doesn't necessarily mean that you should stay away from relationships altogether. The thing that you have to do is to know yourself. I mean, we've been talking about this thing for the last 18 episodes. The most important thing is for you to know yourself. If you know yourself, you know what you want.
Like the human and me motto. The most important thing is that you know yourself.
Yeah, bruh. That's why I was saying, Gucci, most of the ills in the world come from people not understanding how they function as human beings. You come across people who have insecurities and they just tell you, oh no, that's who I am, that's what I've been doing my whole life. And you're like, yeah, it works for you, but it doesn't work when other people are around. It's the same thing as living alone in a flat, right? You get so used to things being the way that you prefer them to be. And then when somebody walks into the picture, you're just like, I'm so used to being alone that this thing, because that's the thing, the moment someone walks into your life, into your world, right? They are going to shake up the way things have been for you, and that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, right? So as much as it's awesome for you to have your own space, live alone, do your things, you have to realize that as soon as another person walks into the picture, they are going to shake your expectations of your own world, and it's going to make you feel uncomfortable, because sometimes you'd find someone not even wanting their parent to visit them. Because of such things, and you hear someone telling you that, oh no, being alone is the thing that I love to do the most, and being alone is dangerous. That's the thing. You cannot live alone. even if you tried. The only thing that's going to happen is that you are going to get trapped in your own head and be disconnected from reality. And then when you go into the outside world and then you experience a lot of friction, you're going to run back to your space and stay there and just continue going down until it gets to a point where you don't even know how to act appropriately in the outside world. Because that's usually what happens with a lot of people. You trap yourself so much, you get trapped in your own head to a point that a lot of people, yeah, you get trapped so much in your own head that you forget, Guti, there's still the outside world. And you have to learn to, you have to learn to contend and adapt. That's what Jordan Peterson always says. You have to learn to contend and adapt. That's the whole point of being here. You need to learn to, you have to learn to contend and adapt. That's the only thing you have to do. To working out and projecting your expectations to the world is not going to work, because the world doesn't function the way you want it to function. So you have to, it's basically the same thing that we still remember when you said that. We once had this argument when we were saying that there are people who control the world, right? And then my argument was that there's literally no one controlling the world. The only thing that's happening is that we are all trying to ride the wave, but some people are doing it successfully than others. Hence we feel like the ones who still have their grip are controlling the world, but they are not. You know with the markets, right? Exactly. A lot of people, I mean, like, we know that, is there anyone who's controlling the markets?
Depends on which markets you're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about the same markets.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a collection of people can do that.
A collection of people, okay. Yeah, okay, a collection of people. But I still believe there's no one controlling the world, though. We're all just trying to ride the wave successfully. So yeah, we got away from what we were on about, and then we moved to a different thing. So this is the time where we have to end the podcast.
All right, backdrop. I can't point.
No,
out.
we have to leave. We have to leave. We've run out of time.
I just want to leave a little hope behind it, because I think we talk about the mishaps and all that.
No, we've already focused on the solution.
Okay.
Didn't you realize that?
Yeah. I still want to add something, bro. Okay. Wait, can I add this, bro?
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Okay, shoot. That's a bit too small. But basically, I just wanted to give my my way of doing it, how to cope with the love dynamic without it having without getting high on the love drug, Basically, it's find a definition of love that works for you.
Know yourself. The first thing you have to do is to know yourself. If you can know yourself, you'll know what you want. If you know what you want, you'll know the kind of partner that you need. That's all there is to it. Exactly. Know yourself.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The way I do it is find a definition of love that works for me.
Sure.
That will not keep me blind to my own projections and blind to the projection of the next person, right? Because the next person, unless they're incredibly conscious, which is incredibly difficult, will be doing the same things that every normal person will be doing.
Sure.
And yeah, same as me. So basically, find a definition that doesn't blind you to what's really going on. The real reality. And if you can have that and work with it, then love won't be such a problem. Even though
but dealing with other human beings is too much work in itself.
Yeah, but
so you'll always come across resistance here and there.
True. That's true, but it's always worth it.
I know.
You seduce your way through the resistance. Yeah, you'll pull through, man.
Okay.
So yeah, and for a reference, my definition of love comes from spiritual personality.
You're gonna go on for another
I'm not gonna define
minutes.
the word. I'm just gonna give the people a reference, So basically, the name of the spiritual personality is Till Swan, right? So you should check out her channel and how she defines love. I think, for me, right, might be for you, but if you're looking for a definition, and you're on the way of, finding your own, basically how she defines love is one that, keeps my level of rationality at its peak, as well as irrationality, because If you don't have both, in a good 80-20 or 70-30 balance.
Sure.
A lot less irrationality and a lot less rational.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the opposite for the average person, unless you start being conscious, right? Then yeah, hopefully you can function properly.
Okay, so we've come to the end of the podcast. Now we have to leave. All
right.
Okay, so thank you very much for staying with us for as many minutes as we could take this thing.
We hope you can properly fall in love from now on. You
know? Which will properly fall in love. Wow. Okay.
Most definitely.
So before we leave, we realized that in order for obviously for our videos to be recognized by other people, we have to leave a like there on the channel, and then make sure that you share this thing with people close by, so that they too can learn from the stuff that we talk about, because that's like the most important thing. That's the reason why we're doing the podcast, that you have to get in touch with the content and get to learn about how you function as a human being, because everything that we do, we try to relate it to everyday life experiences, so that it can be easy to understand. And we hope that you guys out there can understand what we're talking about, and you try to implement some of these things in your life, because that's basically what we do. So yeah, we'll see you again next week. On the 15th episode.
Until next time.
Until next time. Sharp.
Live in love.